moving on, there's a new report in Axios actually that came out on Tuesday. They say the Biden administration, quote, is weighing a plan to declare a public health emergency that would free up resources to help people access abortions. That's the first tear sheet we have. We can put that up on the screen. There's some debate, even within the Biden administration, because they're kind of non-committal in this Axios thing. Basically, they're saying, the administration is saying, this is from Javier Becerra, he told Axios this on Monday, there are discussions on a wide range of measures that we can take to try to protect people's rights. It would allow the administration, according to Axios, to help support states that protect abortion, deploy public health services core teams, and give the government, quote, the ability to accelerate access to new medications authorized for abortion. But there's debate within the administration itself, which has been getting pressure from Democrats who say, and abortion groups who say this is a necessary step. This is a public health emergency post-Roe, and the White House has an obligation to do it. But there's debate within the administration as to whether this would do much, if it would free up enough resources to make a difference, to be worth it. I think, again.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, it doesn't do a whole lot, or it depends on how you interpret it.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I think that's the thing. They said the Biden administration over the summer said basically they went back and talked to experts, and experts, after they'd consulted with experts, they realized it would free up a pool that amounted to, quote, tens of thousands of dollars, as opposed to hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they weren't confident it would do a lot on the other fronts that people claim it would do a lot on. So what is your take on that? Do you think there's evidence that suggests a public health emergency in this case? I mean, one thing that I sent you this article from NBC News, under the PrEP Act, the HHS secretary can issue a declaration that a countermeasure, a drug, device, or biological product is needed to respond to, quote, a disease or other health condition or other threat to health that constitutes a public health emergency. So then the article mentions the health secretary would define the countermeasure and population that needs it, but that federal declaration would preempt any state law that is in conflict with it. So the public health emergency can basically say, hey, this over-the-counter abortion, not over-the-counter, this prescription abortion pill for first trimester, which is a very common use of that pill, qualifies under the public health emergency. So states that ban it, you can go around.
I don't think they need that, though, to allow legal access to abortion medication.
Reclassify it in the same sense as like Plan B? Is that what you'd say?
Well, I mean, as long as it's FDA approved, then my understanding is that states cannot come in and ban FDA-approved drugs. That federal law preempts when it comes to whether or not that can happen. So they wouldn't. I don't think they would need a public health emergency for that.
But they would need the FDA to come in.
The FDA has already approved it.
But states have banned it, have they not?
But they
can't ban it by mail.
Right. Yes. You can ban like the selling of it in a right.
So would and I think then the question is whether this would it stand up in court? Would it hold up in court?
Not this court, right?
I mean, well, in lower courts even. Would it hold up in court? And then is it sort of legally, constitutionally allowed to preempt those laws? Because if he's declared it a public health emergency, has defined that access to abortion being curtailed in the wake of Dobbs, has constituted a public health emergency, he's defined it as such, thus this would have to qualify because it's a drug that would treat.
Right. It just depends on who wins the elections and is able to appoint the justices. Because like before Republicans had the majority on the court, it would have been obvious that yes, it was obvious. Like there's a constitutional right to abortion. Like that was the law of the land. Now they've reinterpreted the Constitution to say that there's no constitutional right to abortion. So I'm sure that they would say, I have no doubt that Alito, comes down and tries to nuke something like this if it actually does anything effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But though it raises the question for me of why politically the Biden administration wouldn't just do this. It just seems to me like it's an obvious thing to do if it's going to be, from their perspective, inconsequential. I mean, I don't think they're that worried about setting dangerous precedent at this point. So just from a sheerly nakedly political perspective, I don't understand why they're not just doing it unless they consulted sort of constitutional legal experts, and those experts told them this could create a legal nightmare because it would open up things that perhaps the Biden administration is worried would be used against Democrats, would be called radical, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, I could see it in the case of the abortion by mail drugs being used that way by Republicans to say they just mandated access to this. You know, they undercut the Supreme Court. But if that interpretation wouldn't even fly, it seems to me like politically it would be a winner for them.
Yeah, the bigger win to me would be getting abortion access on federal property, on federal land.
So in any state, if it's federal property.
Yes, so, right, exactly. And so if you can then get abortion medication through the mail, and you can get abortion services in federal property, then, then you're gonna have, access restored in a substantial way, I think.
The interesting thing also, from my perspective, is the Biden administration has recently said the COVID emergency is ending in May, right? So it's just, I hate to be cynical here, but it's just these things are just being used as political footballs, right? Like Biden says, the pandemic is over, and then he gets hit by some people who are still clinging to the idea that the pandemic is, very much raging, and he has to take it back. And then we're in a public health emergency right now. And if you look around, obviously there's still suffering and tragedy from COVID. It's still real, it's still happening. But the public health emergency level, I think that's a pretty open debate. And so when these distinctions just get tossed around like political footballs, I don't actually even blame either party for doing it at this point, because they become so meaningless that it's like a winner for your side to cling to one side, because it's all been blurred anyway. The importance has been blurred.
And if you remember Ted Cruz, back when Trump was declaring a national emergency to build his wall, when he couldn't get wall money through Congress, Ted Cruz was saying, be careful, because you're going to have a Democratic president who's going to declare a climate emergency and implement communism.
Green New Deal via climate emergency.
Right. He didn't realize at the time that he would so quickly get to see Roe overturned, but he probably would have said, look, they're going to do something like this if you. But so you're right. Both parties, when they get into office, are having a hard time getting an agenda through Congress. Voters are demanding that they do something. So they're just going to find ways to do things. Or Republicans are probably a little bit better at that than Democrats. That's why they're still hemming and hawing over doing a thing that isn't even obviously going to do anything.
I remember talking to Ted Cruz back in like 2018 about his position on the legislative filibuster, which has obviously been a huge debate on the left and even on the right too, even though the right is basically against overturning the filibuster. And at the time, Ted Cruz is like, it's actually a really serious question as to whether, because it's like a done deal. His perspective at the time is it's basically a done deal. Democrats retake the Senate, they get rid of the filibuster immediately. So why would Republicans not do it? Like he's talking about how his perspective has shifted on that. But it's like we're still in this period where we're totally unable to actually, like Congress is totally unable to do everything. We've funneled it all to the executive branch and to like the wider bureaucracy, but we still haven't quite dispensed with the pretense and just kind of opened up the floodgates yet.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.